welcome back to another episode of the Canadian Multifamily Investing Insider Blog. I'm Pierre-Paul Turgeon, Canada's Multifamily Investing Authority, and as you probably know, former CMHC apartment building underwriter and now full-time successful investor myself. Today in this post, I want to answer a question by one of my online students. And by the way, I encourage you to leave comments below anytime you want, and with questions I'd be happy to answer them. But this question is from Jeff, and basically Jeff is asking, and his question is following up my previous blog post that was called Overpaying for Apartment Buildings, What is the Right Price? And in that previous blog post, if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. Jeff found it extremely useful. I'm telling you, in order to know what price, how much to pay for an apartment building, you need to have some understanding of what properties, comparable properties for the type of property and size of property that you selected, what are they trading at in current market conditions, all right? And this is some of the multifamily hacks. I'm sharing all of my hacks when I train people, but this is one of the hacks. If you want to know how much properties for the type of property and size that you've chosen are trading at, what are they going for in terms of purchase price, one of the ways that you can do that, first of all, is to make sure that you're working with a seasoned multifamily realtor, because they would have access to sales like that, all right? So that's one way of doing it. So the second component of that might cost you a few bucks, but you could easily go to an appraiser that appraises, ideally that also specializes in, appraising apartment buildings in your market area, and ask them for a list of comps. Usually that's part of, not usually, but that's always part of an appraisal. When you pay to get an appraisal, the appraiser will give you a bunch of comps. Now in this case, you don't want to order necessarily a full appraisal because you're just trying to ascertain what properties are trading at or selling for in your current market area. But you could ask the appraiser to give you a list of comps, recent comps, all right? You might have to pay a few bucks. Well worth it, in my opinion, all right? I don't need to pay for those because, first of all, I'm an active investor myself in my market area. I know what apartment buildings are trading for, but if you're new to a market, those are two multifamily hacks. So first, ask from a specialized multifamily realtor for comps, comparable sales, and ideally the sales have to be recent, within the last year, even more recent than that if possible. Secondly, ask for ask an appraiser to give you a list of comps. So that's to answer Jeff's question, and please keep these questions coming. Write me some comments below. I'll do my best to answer your questions on an ongoing basis. But today I wanted to talk to you about where do you find multifamily properties. And I know at the risk of sounding like a broken record, not that people listen to records anymore, it's all digital, but you know what I'm talking about. Just like I said in answering Jeff's question, you need to always make sure you're working with multifamily specialists, all right? So when it comes to time to finding apartment buildings, you want to first of all have identified the market that you want to invest in. One of the ways that you can find properties that may come up for sale is maybe to drive in your chosen market area and look for apartment buildings that look tired, that look poorly maintained, the grass is long and things like that. That might be a sign of a tired owner that might want to sell. So that's my first tip today. If you want to find apartment buildings to buy, you can directly approach some of these current owners and see, because you see that their property is in state of disrepair, and approach them and see, would you be willing to sell? All right, so that's one thing. You could also, I've seen lots of people, especially in smaller markets, put ads in newspapers saying, I'm an investor looking for apartment buildings to invest in. But by far the easiest way to find apartment buildings for sale is to work with a specialized, seasoned multifamily realtor, all right? But I gotta give you a bit of a warning in that regard. And that's the part, like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but when you work with a specialized multifamily investor, they see novice, multifamily investors or people without any prior experience in investing in apartment buildings from miles away. They don't want to waste time with you unless you can prove to them you've done your homework. What do I mean by that? Again, having done your research and planning phase, which is something I insist a lot in my training programs, right? know what type of property you want to buy, the size of property, where's the money coming from, do you have the money? I always recommend as much as possible that you have the money, the capital that you're going to need to acquire your apartment building in a bank account sitting there a few months in advance, because then when you approach a realtor to show you some properties for sale, you know, you look like a professional, you've got all your ducks lined up and you're prepared. That's what's going to open doors. If you're not prepared, most multifamily realtors that I know may not want to deal with you because they know they don't want to waste time with somebody that's an amateur. So those are kind of the ways. Anything else? And once you find a specialized multifamily realtor, court these people, buy them lunch if you have to. But again, you're going to have to prove that you've been well prepared. So that's it for today's blog.